my party, had completely gone off the rails and was departing from all of the principles and beliefs that liberal Democrats parties always stood for. We became the party of war. When Democrats were always skeptical of war, we became the party of fear. And, FDR said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And the reason that he said that in 1932, during his first inaugural, during his first presidency. And he said that because the Depression had scared everybody. And there were people in our country who were, taking their money out of the banks and putting it in their mattresses. The unemployment was at historical highs. Banks were closing, businesses were closing. The same thing was happening in Europe. And Roosevelt saw what was happening in Italy and Spain and Germany, where right-wing totalitarian elements were promoting and using fear in order to erase democratic rights and constitutional rights. Germany was the most democratic nation in Europe, and to erect these totalitarian infrastructures in Eastern Europe and Russia and the Soviet Union. The same thing was happening. You had Stalin and others using fear to create left-wing totalitarianism. Right. And what Roosevelt, in our country, a third of the people had lost faith in democracy and wanted to mimic what was happening in Western Europe with the fascist regime. And another third had lost faith in democracy and wanted to be communists. And so he was saying to the American people, the thing we need to fear is fear. Because fear is a tool of totalitarian elements, whether they're left-wing or right-wing. And if we stay the course and stay calm, that this ship is going to right itself. And so that was a warning, that I grew up thinking that America was the home of the free and the land of the brave. And the reason that we were the home of the free is because we were the land of the brave. And all of a sudden you had the Democratic Party that was just, pumping up fear and stoking it and inflaming it and telling us we all had to obey and we all had to abandon our constitutional rights. Yeah. And they dismantled in front of my eyes, they dismantled the Constitution. They went after first freedom of speech, which Madison, Hamilton, Adams said we put that in the free expression of the First Amendment because all the other amendments are dependent on it. If a government can silence its critics, it has a license for any atrocity. And as soon as they realize, okay, they're putting up with it, they're actually going to put up with this, they went after the other plank in the First Amendment was freedom of worship. They closed all the churches for a year without any scientific citation, with no democratic process, no notice and comment rulemaking, all the things that I've been suing government corporation for years of enacting rules without notice and comment rulemaking. Suddenly they had one unelected bureaucrat who was telling everybody to stay in your homes. They closed 3.3 million businesses with no due process, no just compensation. They banned jury trials for pharmaceutical companies who injured, their customers. And they made an all-out assault on the Fourth Amendment prohibitions against warrantless searches and seizures with all this surveillance and intrusion, and questions about we have to produce our medical records before we leave our home and go into a building or fly on an airplane or whatever. So I saw this happening, and the Democratic Party, everybody just going along with it. And and that was when I started, because I was the target of a lot of this censorship. The White House, we now know from the Twitter files and from the Facebook email releases, the White House was directly collaborating with Mark Zuckerberg and with Twitter. And they had given a portal with the CIA and the FBI censoring American citizens, including me. And so at that point, I said, well, the only way that I'm going to be allowed to speak is if I run. But my wife would never let me run if she didn't. She would not allow me to run just to make a point,
Right.
make an argument. So, but then we started seeing these polls. There was a famous pollster called Jeremy Zogby that started polling me without me knowing it. And he brought me the polls. And that showed, that I could win. And I showed those to Cheryl, and she said, okay, I'm on board.